Okay, welcome everyone. Workshop Wednesday, open Q&A. Feel free to put any questions you want in the Q&A section of this. We'll be going through some questions that we got through support this week, if there aren't enough. And this should last probably about an hour. So if you have enough questions. If not, we'll go ahead and cut it off early. If you have a lot, we may stay a couple minutes later as well. Okay, so intake forms, fields aren't showing up in the property that I think should be there. So let me show you a couple little tricks to troubleshooting this on your own. And then you can also take a look at, well, you could also contact support and they could walk you through it as well if you haven't done that already. But let me show you a couple little tricks here. So if I'm in a property and I think that there should be certain fields that came in, I can go up here to my health bar. So right up here, just click on the health bar and then look here. So I don't know this particular intake form, if they were supposed to trigger off of the intake when they hit submit on the intake form, or whether it should be once the TC approves it on the back end. But you'll have, let me find one with some, try a different property and see if we have one that an intake form started. So if you did have an intake, oh, here we go. So as you can see here, we got two little things here. So we got intake submission. There's 20 of them. So if you look back in your original intake form, you should see 20 triggers there. And then if you take a look, open up your trigger options here, and then I'll see that this one didn't come in because I didn't have a counteroffer number 2 fully executed. Existing in the property. So if this would have existed in the property, then this would have fired off and it would have added these 3 items. Now, if I think that it should have still fired, if you think that this document is in there, you can go ahead and retry it and make sure you read this, and it's going to go back through and it's going to say, hey, one or more of your conditional statements failed. Or if it's correct now, if you went in and changed the excuse me, if you change the field, it should go ahead and add in whatever it should have added in if all those conditions were correct. So you can look here and then you can look down through and see if they're all black, it means that they're all true. If they came up red, it means that there's something wrong with whatever one. So I would recommend probably figuring out which fields they were, which trigger it was, scroll down, come down and figure out which field, and then see if you have anything red in here as far as your conditions go. You can also do that on the intake. So if you're not seeing your trigger over here, it might have been triggered on the intake or on the intake approval. You can come over here and check this out. It might be turned off. As you can see, this one's turned off. Make sure you open up these trigger options though, so you can see your conditions. So hopefully that helps. If that didn't solve your problem, definitely shoot us a little video of which fields aren't coming in, show us your intake form. If you're shooting a video, just be thorough so we don't have to ask you, keep going back and forth. If you give us a video of your intake triggers, or at least tell us the intake form that we should look at, and then go through what's not triggering on the actual property, go to these little tabs, show us that it's not. This will give us a lot more information on how to fix that issue for you. So definitely contact support, help at open to close, or hit the little purple widget down the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and you can chat with support as well. Okay. Okay, so Natalie says she's just here to learn how to better utilize OTC. Great. Well, if you have any questions or anything that's, impeding your progress, definitely post them here and we'll go through them today. All right. Okay, so I'm here because the chat sales rep said that this could be used as a demo. I haven't purchased the software. Sure. So any questions that you have on it, just go ahead and I can go through them kind of like demo style. You'll see a lot from the questions of other users, but if you have specific things about the program that you're looking for, feel free to ask those as well. Okay, Smartblocks and Smart Groups. I have a list of contact loops that I want to come into my intro emails. Should I use a Smartblock group to bundle them all together, or should I have each contact loop Smartblock listed in the email? Me personally, I like groups, but you definitely have to wrap your head around it. It's something that's not like just something people think about quite a bit. So let me pop open my Smartblocks, and I'll come down here to, let me try to find one in here that, so here's a smart block. So this smart block may be for your buyers. So if everyone's familiar with smart blocks, they're basically just conditional blocks of data that will come into the email if certain things are true. So now I don't have to create 100 template emails. I can create 20 to cover those 100 because you're having information flow into this email automatically. So if there's an HOA, you may want an extra paragraph in the email going out to the buyer on what that means, what they need to do, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so here's your contact loop. This contact loop is basically grabbing all of the buyers in the transaction. So anyone listed as a buyer, it's going to start. It's going to pull in the first buyer full name, the buyer email, the buyer phone number, the buyer cell phone. There's going to be a space. That's what this BR is. And then end the contact. And then it's going to go look for another person with the buyer tag on it. If you have 18 people that are buyers, it's going to loop through and list them all. Okay, so that's what a contact loop is if you didn't know. Now, for groups, you may not want to, maybe you have 10 emails that are going to have a contact loop for buyers, a contact loop for sellers, a contact loop for escrow, a contact loop for lenders, contact loop for inspector, all these people in the transaction that you're trying to get this information out to everybody. So what you don't want to do is have to paste in all of these smart blocks in your email. So let me come over to an email now, and I will go to the hammer icon, or I'm sorry, yeah, hammer icon, and then templates. And we'll go to email templates, and we'll come down here to, I don't know, let's grab this one, see what's in it. So let's just pretend that these are contact loops. And so you have a smart block for buyer, smart block for seller, smart block for lender, smart block for escrow, smart block for this, smart block for that. You don't want to have to paste all of these in on all 17 emails that they need to go into. So one of the tricks you can do is open up your smart blocks, which is Control S, and then you can go to smart groups. So smart block groups are here. It's in a separate little menu, and have something like all parties to the transaction. So basically why you need a smart group instead of just making this humongous smart block is because you want individual conditions, right? So if we go back to that buyer loop that I had, the condition is if the buyer exists. Well, if you have another one in here for seller, you can't have buyer exists and seller exists and this exists and that exists, because that defeats the purpose of certain things coming into the email. So you'll have this block with buyer exists. You'll have a seller one with seller exists. You'll have a lender one with if lender exists. And so now it's only pulling in the people that are actually in the transaction. So when you come back over here to your smart blocks and you go to your smart block groups, you can come up to one called all parties to the transaction. And you can literally list all of those smart blocks in a big group. You don't even need a condition in here if you don't want one. So you could actually leave this blank. And what it's going to do is say, okay, now go look through each of the individual conditions on each one of these to see if this comes in. So if there's a buyer, that information will pop in. If there's not a lender, this will just get deleted. If there's an escrow agent, this will get inserted. If there's a seller, that will get inserted. If there's no inspector, it will just get deleted. So now it can go down. You don't necessarily need a condition in here. You may want one for special circumstances. I won't go into that. It gets a little confusing. Most of the time, this is going to be empty unless you have a good reason why the whole thing shouldn't come in. And then each of these individual smart blocks will be created over in the smart block menu. And all you're going to do is paste them in here. This is really helpful for, like, say you have those 17 emails where all of these are going to go into. Now all you have to do is pop in. Now all you have to do is paste in all parties to the transaction instead of pasting in buyer, seller, inspector, lender, escrow, blah, 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 every single time. It's just a huge time saver if you're going to be using those over and over. Now, if it's just one or two emails you're using them in, you guys have to figure out if that's a time saver for you or not. But it definitely is there, and I use them quite a bit, and they've been very, very helpful for me. Okay. Okay, so I think I answered that one. When is a good time to enable inline smart block versus not inline? So yeah, this is a great one, and people miss this all the time. We don't have it really like prevalent in here unless you watch the videos. This is an inline smart block. So this inline smart block is going to come right into the sentence. So I have here's a great example. I have a sentence in my opening email that says, I've sent all fully signed documents to your escrow officer, period. Okay. Well, actually it says, I've sent all the fully signed documents to your escrow officer, Smartblock and lender, period. Right. So if there is a lender and the financing is not equal to cash, it's going to pop in these two words. And I want it to be a part of that sentence, right? I want it to say, I've sent all fully signed documents to your escrow officer and lender, period. Okay. So that would be the reason to make it in line. So if you come back here, I have this purple, where was it? Right here, I have this purple turned over so that it comes into that sentence. Now, if it's something like, let's see one that doesn't have it. Okay, so this one. Okay, so this one I don't want to come into the same. So if I put that smart block, I don't want it to come into the same line as the last sentence. I want it to be its own separate. So this is its own paragraph with bullet points and everything. So you can see I got pretty detailed in the smart block. This one's going to come in on its own separate line. Okay, so that's the only difference. So just keep that in mind when you're going through these. Is it a part of the line that you've already created, or do you want it to start on a new line?
I'm going to piggyback on that really quickly too, if that's okay.
Yeah.
One thing that we do see with inline is it does have different formatting settings in place, because again, it's part of an existing sentence we're adding to. So if you have anything that you're creating that has specialized formatting, or you have those contact loops and they're not working, check to see if that inline is toggled on. If it is, we do want to toggle it off. You cannot use the inline option for contact loops in the system. So
yeah, that's great. Also, I just want to point out in an example here where you can actually see it. The contract was sent, or that's not a bad example here. Let me find one that's good. Okay. I'm the transaction coordinator for buyer agent full name, co-buyer agent full name. Okay. So if the co-buyer agent exists, it's going to pop in here. This is just a merge field. So this is coming in regardless. The buyer agent full name's coming in. Now, the reason these are butted up against each other is because I have a period at the end. So if there's no co-buyer agent, I don't want there to be a space here before this period. So a lot of people are doing this. I'm seeing a lot of this. Don't do that. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have buyer agent full name space period if this doesn't come in. So what you have to do is format this smart block, and you have to put a space in front of the and. So this and co-buyer agent full name will have a space in between the and the beginning, so that when it pops in here, there's a space. So that's why you have to test these. That's why if you're creating smart blocks and smart groups, make sure you're testing them on a transaction. Just create a fake transaction, go to the email tab, paste in the email template, and then play around with your fields to either get this to come in or not come in, depending on whether it's a field, a contact, or a document. And you want to make sure that that spacing comes in correct. There's a lot of like just little things that happen with this that you just don't think of, like that, like putting a space in between here. You don't think that that's going to do anything. What it is going to put a space before the period if this doesn't come in. So it doesn't even make sense. Just little things like that to just make sure it looks professional. You want to test and, just make sure it's all cleaned up. Same thing with like how it appears here, like this, let's see here okay. Yeah, this is a bad example, so I won't show you on that one. Okay, we've sent all fully signed documents to your escrow agent. See how I don't have a space here because I don't want that. I want that period to suck up right up against that T if there's no lender on this property. But as I showed you in here, and I didn't really show you when I was in there, but there is a space before this and so that the formatting comes in properly. So just pay attention to that stuff. Make sure you're testing. Don't just put in a smart block and do this on a live transaction where you're asking for a world of hurt in there. All right. Okay, right now we have an intake form for pre-listings that is submitted to the listings. Once they pend, we have another form that is sent over to the transactions. My question is, can we still do it this way, or will that create two property files? Any advice on this? This is my most confusing part. Once I have this portion completed, I think we're almost ready to go live. Well, congratulations on that, Sarah. That's a big accomplishment. Yeah, it will create two transactions, and I do prefer this, and we went over this last week too, so there's a little bit more in depth if you want to go back to the recording from last week, and I think the week before we even talked about this. It seems to be a hot topic. What we like to do is probably like in this property, maybe color code them. So this is the listing, and then maybe there's green for the closing because that means money, and maybe red for the listing or whatever. The reason I like to create two separate transactions is because when you fill out the intake, because you're getting the benefit of the intake forms, right? So you fill out an intake form for the listing, you can have all your triggers set off. If there's an HOA, I need to do these tasks. If there's a warranty, I need to do these tasks. If there's this, whatever. So all those triggers are working to your advantage. Now, you go to the contract close portion. Now you have another form that the agent fills out and it comes in as a transaction. What I do is switch the active listing to under contract, right? And we talked about some other little things you can do for reporting wise, where you can name it like under contract listing or something like that. So it's not part of your reporting. There's little tricks and tips there, but let's just talk about the base here. So that comes in, that's your listing. You change it to under contract. The under contract is under contract. And then if that cancels, you can make it canceled, go right back to your listing and turn it back to active. And now you have all of that initial listing information that has been untouched and works to your advantage, basically. So you're just starting fresh and you don't have to remove things. If you create everything in one transaction and it cancels, you have to think about, how am I going to get the data out of here for this buyer? And how am I going to save it for later use if for some reason I got audited on that transaction, or they claimed that they like filed a suit against the agent because they thought it was unfair practices or something. That data is gone now if you start deleting stuff out of there and create a new transaction. So what I would do is create the listing separate and then create the contract to close portion separate. And then once they close, you could delete out the listing. What I would do is put it in some kind of archive status or some kind of stage that you know that you don't report on. And then I like to color code them, just so if you're looking at the list, green always means this, or blue always means this, or, you know, purple always means that. So hopefully that answered your question. If you have follow-ups for that, go ahead and post them in there. I know this is kind of a confusing topic. You can rename it to put listing after it if you want. I don't like to, just because I use the merge field called contract title, which is this entire thing. And if I put listing in here, when I use that merge field, it actually puts any wording that I type in here. So if I type in that, it's actually going to show up in my email in my merge field. So I don't, a lot of people do, they'll put an S in parentheses or an L in parentheses, or a listing they'll spell out, or they put the last names of the people. There's a ton of different ways you can use this. So, but this is how you do it. You just click on this, it'll open it up and you can rename it there. Okay, can we add a group email address as a user without having to pay for another account? This group email is for all 3 people on our transaction team who already have individual user accounts. I'm confused. Let me reread that.
I think they would need an alias set up for that team email address.
Is that what they're calling it?
I think so. Every user profile would need to set up that alias to have that be a send from option in their dropdown.
Yeah, another way, I mean, a lot of teams are going to just one email address for the whole transaction team, and then either having someone that parses those emails out, or having routes, you know, depending on what's in the subject line, or there's a ton of different ways you can do it with just inputting like info at or transactions at to every single user account. But if you did want to separate them, like Jana was saying, if you're using Google, you can create an alias account, and that alias account like links an email to another email. So you could link that group email address to all of the user accounts. And that would be a way to do it as well. So, okay. If a merge field, yep, go ahead.
Sorry, before we move on aliases, because I know that may be new for some of the people on the call. If you guys have questions on that, reach out, let us know. We do have some documentation on how to set up Google aliases, because that can be really handy, but also just how to implement those additional email addresses in your account. Yeah, reach out to help at for support if you are looking for more one-on-one assistance setting that up.
Yeah, and right here is the support center. I try to go over this on every call, but here's profile, organization, plan and billing. Here's the support center, so you can open up the knowledge base. Idea lab, if you have ideas that you want to post. Keyboard shortcuts, these are really helpful to get around the program quicker. And then the change logs, really cool as well, where it tells what we've updated in the system. So that's there. When I clicked on that support center, pop this open, I typed in the word alias, how to set up a Gmail alias. How can I use at Gmail with open to close, connect your email. So there's a bunch of different articles. I can open that up, and you're going to have step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Now, Google is always changing these little buttons. It's so annoying. Like I just had someone yesterday that was setting up waitlisting, and for some reason his account type had a different view. So there was like one button that it didn't show in the instructions. So if you run across that, just get with our support team. We'll try to help you out with it. It's hard because we can't log into your back end of Google, but we can tell you what we've seen in the past and how to get that set up correctly and make any edits to our knowledge base to make sure we're covering everyone. So. Okay. If a merge field is input into an email template and there isn't any data for that field or no contact rule applied, will that space, yeah, there'll be a space there and it'll be blank. And the reason why is because I'll show you, that's what a smart block is for. So now you're seeing the difference in the benefits of having a smart block versus a merge field. So a merge field, and let's take a look. A merge field is buyer agent full name, right? And that's coming in no matter what. If you don't put in a buyer agent full name, it's going to be blank. But this one is a smart block. And if it doesn't meet the conditions, it will actually rip this out and it won't be here. But you want this merge field there because you're saying I'm the transaction coordinator for so-and-so. You have to have someone in there, right? So that's why it's a merge field instead of a smart block. Smart block is if there's an HOA, pop in this extra paragraph. If there's solar, pop in this extra sentence. If there's septic, pop in these couple extra words or whatever the case may be. Now I'm going to show you over in the health bar. So if we go up to a property, in my history here, and let's try to find, oops, I didn't mean to click that, sorry. Here we go. Okay, so let's try to find one where I don't have it in there. So let's inspect this email that's supposed to go out. And I'm sure there's tons of errors in these because these are just demos. So congratulations, contract accepted by, my name is, oh, here's a perfect example, just what we were talking about. I am the transaction coordinator for blank. And it's like, oh shit, I forgot to put that in there. Well, if you, this one's not showing it because I know what happened there, but let me find another one where I can show you what'll happen on your account. Let me come down here. Here, it's going to give you a red box here and it's going to tell you what's missing. So I'm the transaction coordinator for blank. Well, it's going to tell you that the seller transaction coordinator full name is missing before you send this out. So you can look through these and say, oh crap, man, I forgot to put this in, this in, this in, this in. Now this one may be okay. Smart blocks may be okay. This is just warning you that they're not coming in. But if it didn't meet the conditions, you don't want that smart block to come in. So if that smart block was and lender, right? Like I showed you in that previous example, and it's a cash deal with no lender on it, well, then you didn't want this to come in. So this may be okay for some red to be here. But if a merge field is red, that's an issue. You need to go back and you can come down here and edit fields, or you can go over to your contacts or your documents or whatever you need to fill in, do that, and then go ahead and send it after you get everything right. And only the appropriate red is in here. So once you look at this and it's just this one and it shouldn't have come in, you're like, good, I'm good to go. So this is a fail safe if anything is missing, so you don't look like, you made this mistake. Okay. Perfect. So that helped. Thanks. Great. And then need to get the smart block part still. Yeah. So just think about it like this. I mean, this is probably the easiest way. If it's kind of like how we do task templates, right? It's like you create a task template of all the tasks that come in for every single transaction that's a buyer, right? And then you have on like an HOA task template or a solar task template. Those only come in some of the time when that happens. Same thing with smart blocks. You're thinking about an email and you're thinking about the email that you want to send out. Well, it's the email that you're making in your templates is always going to be there. All the wording and merge fields are always going to be sent out, no matter what is going on in the transaction. So let's just go to an example because sometimes it's just easier to look at one while we're talking about this. Okay. Hi, seller first name. That's always going to be there, right? And just so you know, I get rid of this. I don't put seller first name in here because things get, sometimes people try to put hi seller first name and escrow agent first name. Well, the problem is, well, escrow maybe is a bad example, but let's say it's, I can't think of something, but just think of a contact role that may have two people in it. Then it could say, hi, Andrew and Bob and Susan, and, it's and too many times. the way that it's formatted here with seller first name, if it's two, it just says, hi, Andrew and Bob, or hi, Andrew, comma, Sally, comma, and Bob. So like it will format this correct. But if you start adding ands in, then you get into sticky waters. I don't even put this crap in. I just leave it hi. Hi, congratulations. You know, they know who you're talking to. You're sending the email to them, so they should know. Now, if you're sending it to a bunch of carbon copies, maybe this is an advantage to you. You'll just have to think about that on your own. So congratulations, contract was accepted by all parties on this date. That's always going to be in there. No matter what's happening in the transaction, I want this sentence in there. But what may not be in there is some of your smart blocks. So and lender. So anything that's conditional or may not be in your email, those are the things that you want to make smart blocks. And it's a huge advantage because now, here's the complaint I always get. I don't want to use smart blocks. It's automation. It's like a robot, you know, basically it's robotic. And I'm like, it's actually the opposite of that. It's actually very detailed information for that person based on their transaction. Because if they have a lender, I want to include this. If they don't have a lender, I don't want to include it. And I don't want to have to remember to do that every single time. So what smart blocks do is make you look like a professional, putting in all the appropriate information for this particular scenario. So it could be adding stuff. Let's just pretend there's solar, a well, and an HOA on this property. Well, now it builds all that information in a beautiful format for you so that you have all of the information you need to get to that seller. And, you know, it's packaged up nicely and it's all the information they need. And you're not having to go back and send them auxiliary emails or just delete information that they actually need to have. So smart blocks are a really cool way to make you look better at your job. You just do have to wrap your head around the fact that these are only things that are coming into the email some of the time and based on a condition. And when I look at that and lender, you're going to put conditions. And you can put multiple conditions. You can put an and condition. So if I click here on this contact role, so let's say if lender exists or, and this won't make sense, but I just want to show you the attorney exists. So since I clicked on that and it says you're creating a child condition here, right? Now, I think I added that. It leaves you on that screen so you can create more than one. But now if I come over to the smart block, now you can see that if lender or attorney exists and if financing type is not equal to cash, now go ahead and put this in. So you can get pretty complex here with ands and ors and things like that. I'm going to take this out just because it doesn't make sense. But just know that when you're going through these conditions, it doesn't have to be like a straightforward one thing. If it's not cash, then don't put this in or put this in. It doesn't have to be that straightforward. You can get fairly detailed here with your conditions. So, okay, we are out of questions early today. Go ahead.
I was just going to stress something you brought up a bit earlier, but like, you know, it shouldn't necessarily impact your day-to-day flow. When you guys have new smart blocks coming in, there's a lot of great features that allow you to make quick updates in the system where you're at. And you mentioned those shortcuts. I just want to stress that again. You know, as you guys start to use your system, if you haven't gotten into smart blocks yet, but you're using that inspect tool when you are reviewing your emails, if you find yourself adding content to those emails in the moment, deleting content from those emails in the moment, that is the opportunity to think through, hey, what if I add this to my smart block list? So even from the screen, I think Control S should pop open your smart block window where you can start making edits, adjustments, add in a smart block if you don't have it already without leaving that property screen. So oftentimes it's in those moments where you're actually running your transaction where you get those ideas of what if I add this to my smart block, to this template. So definitely use those shortcuts to your advantage. They can be very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's a great point. Anytime that you hit this edit button, you need to be thinking, do I need a smart block for this? Because obviously you're trying to change your template email for some reason. And now you have to think, what am I bringing in? So what I'm bringing in is the body of this, right? That's this. And then why am I bringing in this is down here at the condition. I'm bringing it in because the client type is equal to buyer, or solar exists, or whatever, you know, this contact exists, or this document exists, or this document doesn't exist. That's a great one. If I don't have the earnest money receipt in my documents and the field I have that says it hasn't been arranged. So sometimes people call me in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to go drop off the earnest deposit today at 6 or 5 o'clock before they close. Just want to let you know Well, I'm going to mark that as a field called it's on its way, because I don't want, and that's going to be one of my conditions, so that I'm not popping in information about how to get information or the earnest deposit over to the escrow company if I already know they arranged it. It's another way to make you look like you're on top of your game. If I send an email to that buyer, and let's say it's scheduled 30 minutes after I just talked to them and they said they were going to take it, and the email is, hey, here's how you get your money over to the title company. Well, that's not going to make me look so great. So having these fields in there that trigger things through conditions is the way to make it look like you always know what's going on with your transaction. You're a professional and you have things held down so they don't have to worry. Less stress equals referrals. And that's the ultimate game, right? Is do a better job for your agent. They'll never leave you. Your agent, on the other hand, is getting referrals because the transaction went so smoothly, and now you're working as a team versus just a contractor. All right. Is there a way to upload multiple files to a document placeholder without the system replacing the main file with the additional files I uploaded and pushing the first document I uploaded? Yeah, not right now. Oh, yeah, actually there is. Hold on. I think there is. Let me go back in there. I think we fixed that. So the way it originally was is if you uploaded a document to this placeholder, it's going to take the document that's in the main file right now, and it's going to push it to additional files. If you want it in additional files, you have to come over here to the additional files tab and hit upload. And once you upload it here, it's going to actually pop it in the additional files. If you upload it here, it is going to pop it in. It's going to move that main file over to additional files and pop that new one into a main file. So how we look at it is if we're uploading a document here, we think that that's like the newest version, right? That's the newest version that you're going to want as the main file. So if you want it as an additional file, you're going to have to go through those steps to get to additional files and upload it there. That typically isn't what's happening, but there may be a use case out there that that's happening often, and that's just the way it works. Okay.
Before we move on from that one, actually,
Sure.
I saw this question come up in implementation this last week of, what if I have photos for this property that I need to upload? What's the best practice for, tracking maybe their repair photos, the listing photos? Can you go over using that all photos option when doing attachments?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just tell you the way I do it, and then you chime in if you've seen anything better. But like I have appraisal photos. We don't put our listing photos in here, but like, let's just pretend you did listing photos, appraisal photos, repair photos. It could be an FHA loan and there's paint chipping and they won't let you get the, through the appraisal without repainting that. And you have to send them a picture, or the appraiser has to re-inspect. Sometimes they'll just take a picture. So what you can do is you can download them all into one placeholder. And when you download them all into one placeholder, obviously you have the first picture here in the main folder, but all the other ones are going to go into those additional files. So you could have like, well, this is a great example. Like this could be all your pictures for something. And so they're all going to live over here. Now in the emails, if you're sending an email, and like sometimes you only want to send the main file, but sometimes you want to send all of the files. And so you can come over here to your email templates. And I think I have one for appraisal repairs, and it attaches all the pictures. And all you have to do is come down here to the bottom and you have to say attach whatever the file role is. So let's just say it's photos. I don't think I have any in here. Let me see, photo. Oh yeah, repair photo. Here you go. I'm going to attach all instead of just the newest. So all, and then I'm going to say any file, not just the main file. I want any file to come in. So now that's going to grab all 50 repair photos instead of just the main file. Okay, so that's just another little caveat to how that works with emails. Anything you want to add to that, Jana?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'm a new user. What does it look like to sign up, and what kind of resources should I look for when I get started? Yeah, so I'm going to take the first part of this and pass it to Jana because she is the getting you started person. So let me go over here to open to close. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is hit try for free. You can also come up here to our Learn tab and watch some videos about the program. You can also do the demo, schedule a demo here. Here's the demo. If you just click on this, you can watch it real time. This scheduled demo is a recording, just so you know. We are going to have a new one. I've been saying that for like a month. I have a new one recorded. I just need to finish editing it, and it's just a huge time suck, and I just haven't got around to it. But I have a new one with commissions and reporting and some of the new stuff in there, so that will be uploaded soon. go ahead and hit try it for free. It's going to pop open this screen. Your first 15 transactions are on us. Choose a plan. You're not going to be charged. This is just what kind of features you want to start out with. So let's just say I want to be on the grow plan. And you can come in here and create your information and you hit sign up. And that's going to give you a login, and it's going to take you through an onboarding stage here where it asks you for team members. You can skip all this stuff in the onboarding basically. So it's going to ask you for your email, your team members, your this, and this. You can skip through all of that if you want. If you're coming from TC Workflow, you're going to want to do the last step most likely, which is import all of your stuff from TC Workflow into Open to Close. Now, it doesn't bring in transactions, but it does bring in a majority of your emails and task templates and all that stuff so that you don't have to start fresh or bring those over manually. Now, once you've set up your trial and you're in there, what it's going to do is it's going to download a pre-built account that our onboarding team created for you. And that's going to get you, I don't know, 60 to 80% of the way done. So it's going to give you a nice base where you don't have to come in here, and I don't have to basically, here, let me just show you some of the things that you used to have to do. So come down to filters. You used to have to go and put in all the contact roles you wanted. You used to have to come in here and put in all the file roles you wanted. You have to come over to fields, and you basically had to start almost from scratch on fields. Well, our onboarding team did something very nice for you, and they came down and put some things in groups, inspection, septic, things like that. And then they put all these pre-built fields and templates, and there's, I think, like 100 email templates and all this stuff. So I'll kind of let Jana take it from here, but this stuff will be preloaded in your account. And then Jana, what other resources can they find, and where can they find them?
Yeah, so I do want to highlight this would be after December 11th, 2022. Any new users signing up that aren't coming from TC Workflow will get the pre-built. If you guys have questions on what's included, definitely reach out to implementation, let us know. Roughly, it has buyer-seller based processes for the under contract period specifically, about 30 task templates total to kind of cover the neutral bases of what most people are dealing with. And we also have a customization guide that we can offer users starting with a pre-built account that will actually walk you through the main steps that we would actually cover in our one-on-one call package. So it is more of a written tech touch solution for you guys, but that is free. If you're interested, again, reach out to us in support. Just let us know that you're interested in the pre-built info. As far as training for all of this, we are looking at launching some group setup sessions here towards the end of February, beginning of March, that can be paired with just the steps that we encourage users to go through as they're setting up their initial account. And we also have a one-on-one 6-call package that we can offer users that are looking for more of that custom one-on-one time for that setup. That one-on-one package is currently $4.99. If anyone's interested, again, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we do have some additional vendors that assist with setup, depending on what your needs are. Outside of that, we love these Wednesday workshops. It's a great opportunity to have that live Q&A if you are using that customization guide. So keep on coming.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. A lot of people ask me that. And, you know, in the future, guys, I think it won't help any of you. So I don't know why I mentioned it, but basically on the onboarding process, we'll link some of that stuff so that you can get a better understanding of where to go for everything. So, okay. So once you upload a contract document into documents, can you rename it? Yes, you can. So some shortcuts here I want to point out on the call this morning with a client. I was just showing her, you can go straight to documents here. You don't have to go all the way into the transaction and click in and then all the way back out. You can literally just pull open documents and then close it. You can do the same thing when you're in the task pipeline. If you want to see, there we go. If you want to see the fields, you can click on the little house. If you want to see, you want to send an email, you can pop that up and you can be right back to where you started. So little handy tips, you know, as you're going through this that are just going to save you a ton of time, especially when you're clicking on, you know, upwards of 60 properties a day. So come in here. Oh, actually, let me go back to my history because that's the one I want to go into. And let me go to documents. So when I go in that way, it's actually going to open up the transaction to documents. When you go in the other way that I showed you first, it'll just put an overlay on the screen of documents. So in here, let's just go into this one. And let's say I want to rename this, right? So the difficult part, well, not difficult, but one thing you need to watch is over here in the global settings, there's a setting. And when you come down to defaults, renaming files. So what I do on my team is I have a name for every single file that comes in, and my agents are required. And if you're an independent TC, obviously you can't do this, but everyone on my team is required to name their files a certain way. So the residential purchase contract, if it's fully executed, is RPC space FE for fully executed. If it's a buyer sign version of that, it's RPC space BS. If it's a seller sign, it's RPC space SS. So that's how I know what my iterations of that document are. But the other thing that's really cool is a lot of our agents will send stuff in, you know, as let's say 0123 main, blah, blah, blah. The title makes no sense. Well, what we can do is just by choosing the file role. So if we preset those file roles to our names we want, all we have to do, because I have it set here to rename the file when the file role is applied. So if the file comes in as 123 Banana Street, and I want it to say residential purchase contract fully executed, all I have to do is come over to, let's see here, let's go to, okay, let's just go here. So let's just, here, I'll go to my documents here, and let me find one that's not, okay, so here, affiliated, or here, we'll go wire fraud. I put the wrong one in. Let's say that I wanted it to be the counteroffer number 1. It automatically just updated the name of this document to that because I have mine set on file role to automatically switch. Now, if you want to turn that off, you're more than welcome. And then you can come in here to the name and you can click in name and you can just type and make sure you hit enter afterwards. I think it highlights it purple or maybe some other color. You have to hit enter for it to save. So just make sure that you hit that enter button after typing that new name. But you do have to have that global setting turned off of renaming, because if I come in here and I say, oh, wait, that wasn't counteroffer number 1, that was counteroffer number 2. Well, now it just updated the name of my document to counteroffer number 2 as well. So I love this. It's a huge time saver for us. It makes sure everything's standardized. If I go back into a file 10 years later, I know exactly where to find stuff and what that document is versus having it named 123 Main Street. But, you know, everyone has their own workflow. So just see what works for you there and then make sure your settings are set up appropriately as well. Okay. All right. My tasks aren't showing the little buttons like yours did. I just see the task, but not the buttons like email. I can send a Loom if easier. Well, let's work through this. You might have to put another comment in here, but are you talking about the buttons on documents or are you talking about the buttons on tasks? You said tasks, so I'm going to go over to tasks, but just if it was documents, let me know, because these buttons
Maybe
are
pipeline too.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. So just for anyone here wondering about these buttons, these are all customizable. They're in file buttons. You can name anything. If you were on last week, you saw me make a faux pas. I put approved in SkySlope and I started spelling it out. I had to add this I to make it a little bit more user friendly, but you can put any combination of letters in here as an abbreviation and up to 4, and then you can spell it out what that actually is so that when I hover over this, if I forget, approved in SkySlope, and then I can make this green. Okay, so yes. So let me go over to task pipeline. So when you're in your task pipeline, these little buttons here are on the upgraded plan. So I apologize, these ones here. You still will have these ones here for the task. So you'll be able to set your, your time frame, or whether it's critical or pinned, or whether it's a parent-child relationship or recurring, or if you want to put a tag on it, you can do that. So you have all these in here that you can change. So anyway, that's all in there. This row of buttons, I believe, is on our pro plan and above pro plan, because this is a huge, and then this is on our scale plan. This is the ability to not let someone check off the task until certain things are done. So will you send a copy of this recording out? Yeah, these are all posted in our knowledge base. So if you go to our support center here, they'll be listed in, I think if you type in Wednesday.
It should also be under webinars too, if you select that option.
Yeah, there you go. There's all of them. And then let me go back to the, oh yeah, webinars right here. And then onboarding, new release, workshop Wednesdays. So there you go. So they're all in there. And our team is very nice. I don't know if I'm this nice, but when you click on this, it will not only tell you a little bit about what we talked about, but when you play it, you can see there's little things that tell you what segments. So if I want to only go to how to manage client portal access, I can literally just skip right to that part of the video. So they are very nice and went through all this time to do these on every video, which is, I think, incredible. And especially for Wednesday workshops, when we're going over like 18 different things, it's really nice to be able to come in here and say, boom, I just want to see intake forms and triggers, or Smartblocks and merge fields, or properties dashboard and task pipeline. They may combine some of the stuff to make it a little bit easier, but really hones down so you don't have to watch an hour and 2 minutes. The other little tip I'm going to give you while we're in here, and if I forgot a question, you're going to have to remind me when I'm done. I'm getting off topic here, but this is really important. A lot of people come in here and be like, this is so freaking small. How am I supposed to watch this video? Well, there's a couple different things. First of all, do a full screen, hit this button, or watch it in YouTube, which is great. And then you can set whatever side you want. Here's the thing that I like to speed these up. I am an impatient person. I'm a D personality. I want things now and quick. If you haven't noticed by the way I talk. So in here, I speed these up to 2 times speed. So now I can get through these videos a lot quicker. I'm the team lead as a client in the client portal. Do I have to invite her to each transaction? So you can see it speeds it up. I don't like when people talk slow, so I always get the video and I speed it up to at least 2. When I'm reading my books on Audible, it's at 3. So it is a huge time saver if you're just trying to get to a certain point. You can always slow it back down once you get to a certain point. So just a little tip. All right. Was there a question in there that I forgot to go over?
I think Natalie's, her questions were actually with the task list, not the pipeline. So if we want to circle back there.
Okay, cool. My tasks aren't showing the little buttons like yours did. I can just see the task button, like email. I can send. Okay, so that was the button. Sorry, the buttons in the task list. Yep. Okay, so I think we answered those. You will not have these unless you're on the Pro plan or above. There's a lot of features on the Pro plan that are great. I understand it's not in everyone's budget, but if it can be in your budget, I think there's a lot of efficiency there that unlimited smart blocks, unlimited task triggers, like things like that could speed up your day and pay for that extra $100 pretty easily a month. All right.
And again, that's under the funnel icon next to your filter list.
Yeah, good point. If you got on after a certain time, I think these are all pre-checked for you. If you were a user for quite a while, I think you have to go in and check these buttons. I don't think we went in and checked them for people. So is there a way to see notes when you put it in a contact without having to click on the notes button to see if there's a note attached? So in the contacts, or I wonder if they're talking, I think they're talking about here. Oh yeah, I think maybe I can get some clarification on this.
That.
But are they saying like they want this like highlighted if there's a note in here so they know
Correct.
there's a note? Okay.
Yeah.
That would be a feature upgrade. So definitely put that in the idea lab. It's actually not a bad idea. Maybe even like a little number or something by it, like a little 1 or a 2 or something. That'd be kind of cool. Definitely put it in the idea lab. We'll take a look at it. That's something that I think would be helpful for all users. So, okay. How would I go about setting up a recurring task? I just need a weekly reminder to send a report to my team lead on my listings. Hold up. Things are moving around. All right, hold on. Sorry, my Q&A list is jumping. My eyes are like, what is happening? How would I go about setting up a recurring task? I just need a way. Okay, sure. So that's fairly easy. Couple different ways you can do it. So let's talk about this. And then Jana, didn't someone just come up with a little trick on recurring tasks the other day? You want to take that one? I'll get into a task and you can point out what we did or what they did there.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think Hannah was working on this one with the team.
I think she's on
in our
here.
brainstorm hour. Yeah, do you want to? Let me get you over here. Hang on. But essentially, there's a couple of strategies around recurring tasks. So we'll let Hannah take it away with this on what she was finding there with.
Actually, let me do this first part real quick. So reopen this task. So you could say 7 days after the task is closed, right? And then specific reopen date. This is really important. So if I have a task that's every 7 days, right? And I have the recurring on there. And let's say I'm working on this on a Saturday, getting ahead of the game, or let's say it's Thursday and you want to send these out every Friday. Well, you don't want the next task to pop up in 7 days from now because that's not Friday. So what you want to do is click on this and you're going to want to put a specific date. So what you can do is, let's just pretend today's the 9th and I really want to close it on the 10th so that it comes back up on the 17th. I can actually put the 10th in here And even though it's the 8th right now, it's going to say that I did it on the 10th and recalculate that date for the 17th. So really cool little feature there that a lot of people, I think, don't know about and can save you some time. So Hannah, go ahead and take it away from there.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today? So we recently talked about reoccurring tasks with one of my clients. Andrew, actually, if you want to go over to the task template, we can take a look at it on one of those. So the question, I believe, was in regards to listings, right? So we're talking about a task that doesn't have any sort of triggers on it. We just want this task to come back up after a certain amount of days. What my clients have found and what we found through kind of discovery is that if you do not put a due date, so no due date, and in here we put in just 7 for reoccurring, right? So we're going to say, yep, none on the due date. And then when we go to reoccurring and we add in 7, what that will do is it will bring that task up. It won't be past due. It won't flag you and say, hey, this was supposed to be due 7 days ago. It'll just bring that task back up. So what we like to do is we like to pair the when that task needs to come up, 7 days, 14 days, think about it like that, with the either pinned button or the critical button. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring that task to the very top of your list. So if you need a quick reminder of send listing update to team lead, you can use that reoccurring button paired with the pinned or the critical. It'll bring that task back up. And then you don't have to worry about that, due date saying, oh, it was due 2, 3, 4 weeks ago.
The other thing that I have seen people do, I can't remember how they were doing this. I don't really use it, but I know if any of you work with Josie, I think she does, or has, maybe she came up with this actually. In the fields, they have the first date. So like, let me just give you an example because it's something that is pretty cool. So like they have a section here called Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. Or Sunday through Saturday, sorry. And then they put in the date in the transaction, the first Sunday, the first Monday, the first Tuesday, the first Wednesday, the first Thursday. And then they do something off of these dates. So they say like, if they want it every Friday or they want something every Wednesday, then they do 7 days after this date reoccurring. And so it's kind of a cool way to do it. 14 days after, 21 days after, 28 days after. So if you're looking, because our program doesn't do like every Wednesday in this portion of the program, that would be a good feature request as well. But every Wednesday, every Thursday. So the workaround is create this section that maybe you don't even see. Maybe it's in some other section over here that you fill out at the beginning of the transaction, and then you're done with it. And your tasks may be, 7 days after this Tuesday, 14 days after 21. And now it's every Tuesday reoccurring. So just a little trick that I think Josie or one of her students came up with, and I thought it was pretty cool. All right, what else we got here? In your contacts, it shows tags. Is that only in the pro or scale option? The great question. And I don't know off the top of my head, to be truthful with you. If you don't see it and you're in the, if you're in the grow, then I would assume so. I can find out for you though. If you want to send an email into support at help@open to close or hit the little purple widget and ask them, they could probably get you that information quicker than I can. But if you do want that, so you can see the tags here. Whoops, you can see the tags. You can also go into the contact and see the tags. It's not fully built out yet. So these tags are here. They're pretty static. It's just like a tag on a, in the future, we may do some automations or things like that around these, but we're pretty far away from getting into that. We just kind of put these here to appease some people bringing in information into the system. They had massive lists of people they wanted to bring in and they wanted to keep their existing tags. So we created that. All right. No more questions. 12:54, pretty good timing. If you guys have additional questions, go ahead and pop them in. I'll give you another minute or two to get those in there. If you don't know where resources are, if you don't know how to get in contact with support, I mean, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but if you don't know how to get in contact with support, if you don't know where to go for a certain problem, if there's something that's just baffling you in the system, now's the time, get it in here. This is open Q&A, and this is the best time to get these things answered before we bounce off here. So same time, same place next Wednesday. Jana, I'm hoping you can take over that one because I will be traveling that day. I will be on a plane, but we'll make sure that someone on our staff is here answering questions next Wednesday from 12 o'clock Mountain to 1 o'clock. Is there a way once you're in a property to add a tag to a contact like you can in TC workflow? Ooh, I'm not familiar with TC workflow, so I don't know, but I don't think so. So let me go into.
I don't believe there is.
I don't think there is either. I'd have to go over to TC workflow and see how it works, and then I could definitely get back to you on that and see if it's maybe something that could be added in the future. What way do you use that? Let me ask you that. Like, what's the use case for something like that, Amber? If you don't mind typing it in, I'd love to hear about it. So let me just open this up. Tag, yeah, there's no tag button. I'm sure they could put in a tag button. Yeah, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem, but probably wouldn't be.
When you hit edit, does it show it there? I think it does, but
Nope.
add notes, groups. Okay.
Yeah, maybe tags could be here. That'd be kind of handy. That would probably be a pretty low impact upgrade. Let's see, to put in a note about if we are using a seller, but they are a corporation. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it's currently in here, but definitely put that in the Idea Lab if that's something that's super helpful for you. And if basically what we do for the Idea Lab, I know I've explained this a couple of times, but let me just reiterate. Your suggestion goes in every quarter. We take a look at the whole list. We pick out the ones that we think will be most impactful to hit 80% of our clientele. We do a little bit of surveying. We dig a little deeper on how it's going to improve productivity. Everything has to improve productivity, right, for it to get in the program, because we're looking for automation as much as possible so that you guys can focus on the things that matter. And then once we go through that, then we parse that down to a couple a quarter and then focus on those things. The next things coming up are going to be mobile app. That's a big project. It's going to take a while, but we are starting to improve upon that design right now. And yeah, I'll leave it at that one for right now, but that's a pretty exciting one. There's some other automation ones that we're talking about, but we'll discuss those with you later. So, all right, same time, same place next Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you guys being here, and hopefully you got a lot of value out of what we talked about. So talk to you soon. Have a great day.